Okay, so in this raceway, we have some of our broodstock or breeding fish that are responsible for producing fingerlings. In tilapia culture, what you'd find is that males are preferred since they grow larger and don't have to stop feeding in order to breed. Tilapia belong to a family of fish called cichlids, and they are just excellent parents. Females of the genus Oreochromis are mouth brooders, and they would raise their young in the safety of their mouth. So the females will not eat, and therefore they will lose weight during this period. So in order to optimally produce fish for harvest, labor would have to then be dedicated to sorting males from females by manually sexing them and separating them. So this process is very tedious and is both time and labor intensive. So to get around this, sex reversal of females to males in tilapia has been developed over the years in aquaculture. So in the past, it was common to practice using androgenic hormones that's dispensed in the feed. But thanks to biotechnology, we have males now that are genetically double Y chromosome. So basically, this results in all of the offspring being almost 100% male through natural reproduction with standard double X chromosome females. So these special fish are what's known as super males, and the way that we stock them is at least 3 females per male, and that's in order to increase production and also to avoid injury to the females. So another thing you'll notice in this raceway is the vigorous agitation of the water. This is done by blowing fine bubbles of air through the water column, which increases the effective surface area by which atmospheric oxygen can more readily dissolve. And this process is basically called aeration. Now, as mentioned before, decomposing organic matter like waste reduces the dissolved oxygen, since that process is aerobic of breaking it down. So maintaining sufficient levels of dissolved oxygen is critical at all times. This is particularly in intensive systems where stocking density is very high. The piece of machinery that is responsible for this is called a regenerative blower, and it is critical that it runs constantly. This basically drives massive volumes of air at low pressure over long distances, and having a failure of the blower can result in entire losses of crops of fish within an hour according to the stocking density that you have. Alright, so feed in aquaculture accounts for almost 70% of total business expenditure. In commercial operations, tilapia may be fed 2 to 3 times daily at a percentage of their total body mass. Most of the feed used by local farmers are imported brands. However, locally, National Flour Mills produces an extruded 5mm floating ration for grow-out-sized fish. We actually recently conducted a study to test the quality of NFM's ration against the top imported competitors in a green water system. Now, green water and brown water systems don't rely on biofilters, but rather an active suspension of phytoplankton and bacteria which directly assimilates ammonia and incorporates into their respective tissues or flocks as protein. So, tilapia have the ability to effectively filter feed on this particulate matter, and it so reduces the need for extremely high quality feeds. What's interesting is that not only did we find comparable results between both feeds, but despite a bit of extra sediment in the NFM, we found that it established favorable conditions for a green water system much faster than the imported ration. So, while it is important to feed fish for optimal growth, one of the biggest mistakes you'll find made by fish keepers in general is overfeeding. A good rule to abide by is to feed to the point of apparent satiation or fullness by observing feeding vigor or enthusiasm over a 5 to 10 minute period. The observer has to note when the fish seem to be losing interest in the feed, as well as allowing enough time for the more aggressive individuals to get their fill and allow the rest to feed comfortably. One point that must be made is the importance of floating feeds, since it allows the fish to come to the surface of the water to be observed, as well as avoids uneaten feed to sink quickly and to degrade water quality when it's decomposing. So here you can see the fish rising and eagerly approaching me to be fed. This observation of fish tells me that the water quality is good, and in general, hungry fish with a good appetite are healthy fish. I am simply taking small handfuls of feed and evenly distributing the feed over the surface of the water to ensure that less aggressive individuals on the outskirts receive their fill as well. I will feed small quantities at a time, and I'll be returning just to check that no uneaten feed remains in the water.